And then, about breaking rules. I can remember the first time I came up, I saw these very, very formal, the most formal tulips you can get, the parrot tulips. And they were planted in the meadows and sort of all these places. And I thought, no, you can't do that. They're formal, they have to be that. You can't do that. Well, you know, when you're creative, when you're talented, when you have an eye, you can do anything and make it work, which is what you do. And I think you refer to them as your bouquets.
Yes. Well, a little bit happened too, because the tulips now, you know, and unfortunately, considered annuals. So, you know, you can't put them anymore in a cutting garden because they will not come back the next year. So you might as well have a bit of fun and do, you know, different things, you know, different places. So I think a little bit came out of, you know, because there has been such a change. Yeah.
The same thing about breaking rules. I remember you got these, it's only about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that you got the crab apples in a very poor slide. But you'll see this sort of a straight line of young trees just on the edge of the woods there. And I thought, you know, well, you can't do that. And yet it works really beautifully, as does this. When you got the, and can you see that there are 4 or 5 lilac standards? And you told me that you're going to use them. You had opened up that area, got rid of all the forsythia there.
Yes.
And then use them this way, and it works. It's fabulous. It's wonderful, but I never would have thought of doing such a thing like that. You know, I think those standards, you probably put them up near the house or something, possibly even in pots. Anyway, it's great. And it's all about breaking the rule. Once you know the rules, breaking them.
Well, I don't think we ever had any rules.
Again, a wonderful place where very sort of theatrical use of these pine trees, which you told me were there, have been there.
Yes.
But then you chose to put them on this, you know, put the grass right up to the bases of it, and beautifully manicure the grass up to the bases of the trees. So they become these objects that create space. And then you take something as simple as a euonymus and prune it so that it becomes a piece of sculpture. I'm going to start going a little more quickly here. Plants that are sculptural in and of themselves. Actually, I'm not sure what that is on the right-hand side. But on the left, wonderful, you have that great grove of metasequoias,
yes,
which you got early on, I think, when you must have had them for quite a few years now.
Well, I think they go back. Actually, my very first one was the signature plant from Brooklyn. Yes, you know, when you get, you know, a higher membership in the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, you get, you know, you can choose, you know, a special plant. And I chose one of the metasequoias, and you know, it is really a very exciting tree because it is, you know, it just shoots up there in front of you practically. It's the fastest growing tree, I think, that we have around here. And, you know, now they're supposed to grow up to 100 feet. And I bought myself the other day one, which is, you know, supposedly, again, a dwarf.
Water is, you know, a very important element in your garden, what with the stream that flows through it. But the other day when I was up, it was after that week of rain, and in the middle of the path there was this rock that had collected water, and I thought, was that intentional that particular stone was left there? Because that was there.
That was there.
A couple of shots of the stream, which you can hardly see there, but it's beautiful, beautiful piece of land, and your great big meadow.
Yes, well, you know, a few years ago, I obviously tried a few things that didn't work out. You know, among the thing, I tried some wildflowers, which are wonderful, but they last a very, very short time, and then you have to redo, you know, the areas. But it left me with some forget-me-nots. Now, forget-me-nots are supposed to be, you know, a very, very lowly plant, and it's supposed to be invasive. And but the fact is, they're so marvelous, and they are, the last few years, they have covered everything. And I've just let them go, and you know, they're very easy to pull out, and they're better than any weed. And so we have, you know, this wonderful moments in the spring where a lot of the full place is covered with forget-me-nots.
It's highly effective.
Yes.
And then your ferns, you've developed a really wonderful collection of ferns with some help.
Yes, we have, there was an area in the garden, actually, it's the large, it's probably the latest that, we really got to really take care of and redo it a little bit, with the woodlands. And I met up with a wonderful gentleman, Dr. Nickel, who is, was the curator, he's really Mr. Fern, by excellence in this country. And still at it, he's now retired, and he helped me with selecting some ferns, and we have now 60 or 70 different ferns in the garden. And they are the most, thankful, ground covers, I must say. They hardly ever get any diseases. They can leave them alone. And they come back every single year and have given us great pleasure.
And of course, one of the great, that's not a secret, one of the great ingredients of great gardens is a compost pile. And you have this absolutely wonderful compost pile that you do sifted compost and it gets spread throughout the garden.
Well, yeah, it's a big compost pile.
So quickly, back up to the house and a little talk about some changes that you made, prompted by some of your friends, or one friend in this case, one particular friend who kept objecting to some forsythia that you had. It took some years.
He hated forsythia, and he has a very beautiful, exciting garden. And every time when spring he called me quite often on the telephone and said, "Oh, the forsythia's gone." No, they're not. So, and finally, there was a day when I just couldn't stand it any longer. And I said, okay, we're going to go out there. We're going to cut down the forsythia, which we did practically, not everywhere. So this was the entrance of the house for many years, and it's only happened 10 years ago. And so these forsythia, we cut them down. And what it has done, I must say, he don't know that, I didn't know that, it has opened the whole view onto, a wonderful view onto the garden.
Which is what you have here. You can't tell that. That would have all been blocked by forsythia.
So here, unfortunately, he never saw this, the forsythia was gone.
That's the same area also. Now you can see that was just a great mass of forsythia. And it's all about, sometimes you edit, to edit in the garden is really important. Taking things away is just as important as adding things. And here, taking away the forsythia opened up this whole new area, and you have redone it with low-growing junipers, et cetera, that sort of complement the whole thing. And then sometimes the choices of things you do in the garden
are not my own.
Are not your own. Well, you seem to think none of them are, but you're smart enough to leave things. In this case, a fallen pine tree.
And it's living now up to 5 years, and as long as it's going to live, it's going to stay there.
This is the case with the fallen willow
that came down 3 years ago.
And it looks like a dinosaur, rather a crocodile. But the end of it is, you can see, well, it's a curly willow, and all those all those sprouts on it. And then because I seem to go crazy here. Sorry. And then, in order to, you have said that it was pretty much a spring garden for most of its life. And then when you, looking ahead to being a public garden, you felt that there had to be changes.
Yes, and this was one of the things. We've never had what might be called a rock garden. Now I realize I'm, told it is not technically a rock garden. It is an interpretation of a rock garden, and people's word for it. And this was, part of. First, we didn't have any, and we had this wonderful rock wall, and I thought it would be showing, again, what you can do in a small area. And there, shall we say, what I mentioned before, trying to tell people what they can do. These are all plants that need much less care than the average plant. They're like to live in gravel. They're very hardy. They need much less water. And this was the beginning of a series of things that we are trying out now to show people how they can do things, as I mentioned before, with less water, with less care.
Well, it's been 50 years well spent. Thank you for doing it, and thank you for letting us in to see it.
Well, I thank you all, but the one thing that I would like you to leave the thought with you, and it's only because I was, over the last years, been asked a little bit about my life, my first 50 years, you know, which was taking care and concentrating on the things inside. And the one thing, you know, looking back at it, the one thing I learned great, you know, although it has enormous similarity, the one great difference is that you control what you do inside, and you don't control what you do outside. It tells you what to do, and it, you know, makes changes that, you know, that you might like or not like, but there happens to be a little difference there. So thank you very much for that.